Hello everyone. We are again back with the style and color changes in Matplotlib and Seaborn part 2. Okay. In the last week we talked about the style and color changes in Seaborn. Okay. I just gave you just a brief, a small type of introduction about this Matplotlib and Seaborn. And once again, I just want to fasten up the little bit theoretical introduction, and we can move on to the next one. So we'll go to the next one. All right. C1. In the last video, I mentioned that C1 is a library for making statistical graphs in Python. It is not only in Python, but you can use any of the languages. But I have mentioned many times that to use Python because Python is the most user-friendly programming language that we have today. There are few questions which ran my mind. Why? Because some people are asking, how can you tell Python is an user-friendly language, especially in using Matplotlib and Seaborn, which are used as graphical user interfaces? For that, I'm going to show you quite few examples now, and let's continue this Seaborn one. So the last one, tools for choosing color palettes that faithfully reveal patterns in your data. This final point, of course, I mentioned it last because to show you how important it is. Okay, to go to this particular aspect. So let's start the programming. Just give me a few seconds. Right. All right. Many people are asking me, when I started teaching about the Seaborn, many people asked me, why are you always using the Jupyter Lab? The reason I'm using the Jupyter Lab is it is the application where I can execute my particular command or statement in the Seaborn. Okay, so you need not worry if you don't have a Jupyter Lab. So there are many applications. You can use a pen tool. There are many things. Okay, there are many things. So don't worry about just keeping out the Jupyter Lab. So we'll start with a simple program. Okay, so let's start it. So import Seaborn as SNS. I have mentioned you before that we're going to use the palettes. So I'm going to give a palette equals SNS dot color. Just a random type of function that I'm doing here. And then bright SNS dot all plot of. Okay. Now let's run it. Just okay. So I'm going to explain you about this program. So import C1 as SNS. You can do it any ways you want. For example, not SNS. I'm going to take only NS. So click it, remove S. Sorry. It's okay. NS, and then I'm going to take yes here, remove it, dot remove, and now let's run it again. See, so that's the reason I'm telling you Python is a user-friendly language. You can use any type of variables at any number of times, at any number of instances, even before declaring it. For example, if you take programs like C and Java, or even few programs like uh, no, not object oriented, you don't have this feature using a number of variables as you want. Okay, but remember one thing, since I'm mentioning you it's a user friendly, that doesn't mean you can write spelling as you like. Okay, for example, I'm writing key here, and now let's run it. So it gives you an error, which means, of course, up to maximum extent you can use a variables according to your type. But remember one thing, when you're defining a function or you know trying to execute a program by using a pal plot or a color palette of with the different types of things, remember one thing, you can use your wish, any number of variables at any spellings, everything is okay. But remember that you don't try to overextend even your general English. Okay, see, English is a basic for all programming languages. Okay, because if you change one letter in an English word, it changes the entire meaning. For example, uh, kite, K-I-T-E, I remove E, it's kit. See, the meaning itself has changed. In the same way, as these programming languages are started by the Americans, the thing is write perfectly the spellings. Okay, irrelevant to the number of names of the variables used. For example, NS. See, there is NS. Of course, there are few abbreviations for NS, but NS, a natural science like that. But NS is not something which we don't use a common like word. So we can use any variable of your type. But remember that when you're defining a function or when you're trying to execute a program with these functions, that you try to write the spellings correctly. Okay, so we'll go to the next program. Uh, Oh, okay. By the way, I forgot to mention. See, I've written in the second line, palette equals ns dot color palette of bright. What if I remove this bright? All right, now let's run it. See, so these color palettes which are you seeing here is the actual default color palette in the Seaborn, because I have given nothing. Okay, now let's use another one. Bright. What's the opposite of bright? I think all of you know it. It's dark. Oops, sorry. And now let's run it. See, have you seen that these have changed to dark? These set of colors have changed to dark. I have mentioned to you before that. Okay, so I mentioned to you before that C1 gives relationship between a set of variables at a random instance. I have also given you such examples like, uh, for, for example, let us take the examples, 135-9. I know the answer is 7. Great. But what about, I give you this, 1 minus 35, 1 lakh, minus 32, 5,000, 6 lakhs, 1,000, 24-1. What is the answer? Surprised, right? Yes. But this Seaborn can even give the answer for that. Got it? It can give even answer for that. If you want, you can do random experiments on C1 and you can get the result. Okay, we'll go to the next one. Since we used, let us go. Let us take a new cell. The new cell is very easy. You got two options here. You can just say here, copy the selected cells, cut, paste, or else you can just do a right click and then clear all outputs you can get here. Right click. Sorry. See, cut, copy, paste, delete cells, merge cells, I think if you try to experiment on these C1 practicals, I think you can clearly understand how to create new cells, how to cut new cells, how to copy new cells, how to remove new cells, how to delete new cells, how to bring in new cells. Okay, so we just try to experiment on that. We'll go to the next program. We'll import again C1. The reason I'm using SNS is, we generally use SNS. It is used for a general purpose, and there is no special reason for that. You can use any variable. But for example, to find an unknown thing, what do you use? Use X. See, you can use A, you can use B, you can use C, but we generally use X. In a similar way, there is no particular reason why we are using SNS here, but you can use any type of variables. SNS, since I mentioned before, you can use even NS or anything. Okay, we'll go with the SNS here because it's a standard one. Many people use it as a standard, and for NumPy they use NP. You can use anything, but NP for NumPy and Matplotlib as PLT. They're standard ones. Okay, so don't worry about this. Why only SNS is here? Why NSS is there? Okay. All right. Next, we'll this time instead of the color palette we are trying to let us try to set the colors. Okay. Oopsie. We're going to set palette. Then we're going to write something like pastel. Don't worry, I'm going to tell you about this. Okay, and then we are going to use this time we are going to use custom colors. Custom palette. Don't forget, remember the spellings because they are very, very important. If you write a spelling mistake, your program is not going to be executed. Okay. And now I'm going to use something called this one. 8, 9. Okay. SNS dot all plot. I think by this time all of you expected this, right? Okay. Custom palette. All right, now let's run it. See. Sorry, okay. So import C1 as SNS. I mentioned it with SNS.cell. What is pastel? In setting a palette, there are few commands you can use, like pastel. Okay, by the way, I forgot to mention, many people might get this doubt. I forgot to mention here. How do you know to use bright, dark, or there are number of commands. And how to remember this? I'm telling you simply, just remove it. Don't worry. This time I'm going to show you an error because these errors are going to make you learn something. Okay, when I started this program in C1, I'm not a very so genius like guy. So I used to experiment on this C1, how to learn. See, then I got few ideas, and now I became a really good programmer. So I think the programming, if you want to learn, I think experimenting is the one best way, because curiosity is very, 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 very important in this. When you're trying to learn, curiosity is very, very important. Okay. So I'm going to show you what are the commands that you can use and the things you can. For example, I'll write red and I'll run it. See, I got an error. So, I showed you the default one, right? This is default. Okay, after the default, if you want to know what you have to type between these braces of any function, the simple thing is just place the inverted commas. Okay, just place the, when you're defining a string type or a character mentioned many times, this thing you do and just run it. Okay. Oh, we got a very, very big error. Big error. Okay, so we'll take to this point, which is known as value error. Why the value error means it tells why your program is not executed. See, here it is given. Color map is not recognized. Possible values are accent are blues are berg, GG, bugan, and there's Greek and Latin. Okay. Okay, see, just look at this set. I'm going to show you with the cursor. Set. Of course, Python is a user-friendly language, but it has few functions defined within itself, and that you can't change. Of course, there are user-defined functions in C1 and in Python, but I'm not going to tell you now. Since it is, first I'm going to show you the predefined functions. So these are the things you can do here. Okay, so let's try with another one. Oh, there is no red here. If you can check here, there is no red at all. Okay. You got oranges, spade, or this, that, this, rocket, rainbow. Okay, let's try with the rocket and rainbow now. Okay. Rainbow, and let's run it. See, we got the rainbow. Isn't it cool? Okay, let's now try the rocket. Wow! We got a rocket here. We got a space station. So the people who want to play a space station PSG4 game, it's here. Isn't it cool? So there are many young programmers who come to me and tell we don't like coding. Coding is tough. We just can't remember the commands. We just can't can't do this, can't do that. The thing I only tell to them is coding is very interesting. If you start coding at a very young age and you found a very interest in that, I'm telling you, you can become a great programmer. See, it's just like an experimenting. Just by experimenting, we got many applications in today's world. You look wherever you are there, wherever, without coding, it's like nothing, literally nothing. See, as a rocket, as a rainbow, I'm telling you, don't try to buy hard these programs. Don't try to buy hard these programs. Just for giving you examples and just for your explanation of the particular functions, I'm just teaching you, that's it. But never buy hard these programs. Okay? Because if you buy hard, it will be like just something like a normal subject in your school or your college. So just look at these programs and try to experiment it on them. No problem. First time you get an error, that's okay. 10 times okay. 15 times okay. It's not a problem if you get an error. But from the error, try to learn it. When I was starting my programming skills, I used to have this doubt. How can I run many commands at a time? I'm just showing you a 3 to 4 line arguments. The general applicational programs has more than 150 to 160 lines, a basic one. And if you go to other programmers, there will be about 1,000 lines. Okay, but the thing is, you have to try to learn each type of function properly. Okay, so this rocket there, ready to go off. All right, it's gone. Let's come to the second program. Pistol. What if I use rocket here? Let's run it. See, we got the rocket. Okay. Then just look into the program. I mentioned custom ballot equals to SNS dot color ballot of 8, 9. What is 9? 9, don't think it is something, a number or this or that. Just let's count the number of colors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's 1, 9. Okay, I'll keep, how about 19? Oops, sorry. 19. Let's run it. Count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. That's it. It's as simple. Then what is the default number? Simple. I mentioned it before. Try to remove the number. That's it. Let's run it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it's 12. What if I remove the rocket here and let's do another one like pastel? Let's run it. Let's count it. 10, 11, 12. As simple as that. So for the set palette of pastel, and if we call it paid, we get the default number of color palettes as 12. Simple. I'm running the paid now. Ooh. What? I removed the paid and I got 10? Yeah. So before that, I just want to clear that this is the type of various combinations you used. For example, if you use paid, you're going to get 12. If you remove the paid, you're going to get 10. What if I remove even this? Because I want to show you what are the default colors too. Let's run it. Oops. Set palette, custom palette, set palette, missing one, required positional palette. Okay. So we just can't leave in this way. So let me do another one. Right. So, right. So let me tell you, my friends, the reason the program did not execute in the before instance is you can't leave two functions since it's a called function. Okay, so let me give you a little introduction about the functions. There are two types of functions: called function, called by function. Okay, called function is a function that calls the other function. Of course, it will be little confusing now, but I'm going to show you an example now. Called function is a function that calls the other function, and called by function is a function that is called by other function. Okay, so here custom SNS.set palette. Okay, then custom palette and pal plot. There are three types of functions here. There are three functions here. Let me tell you, set palette is a sub function of custom palette, and color palette is a sub function of SNS.palplot. Okay, so custom palette is being called by the palplot. So palplot is the called function, and the custom palette is the call by function. Okay, this will be a little bit confusing for you here. What is called function and what is called by function? Since I think it is discussed in the theoretical part by some of my colleagues. So the thing I want to mention you here is just when you are trying to learn a Python or something, just try to know the difference between the called and the call by function. Okay, the reason the program didn't execute is a call to function, because there is a rule in Python. Of course, it's an user-friendly language. Again, I'm going to say the same word, but there are few rules you have to follow. You just can't tell, as I want, I will try to write off. It's not only in Python. You can't do in any of the languages as you wish, typing whatever program you want, because there is something in the application called compiler. It is used to check the accuracy of your programs with its set of rules defined by the programmers. The programmers are the programmers who defined the Python programming language at the first instance. They are the programmers. Okay, it sets the rules. So the reason it didn't execute is you can't leave the call to function and the call by function both empty. And I'm telling you, the default palette or the color palette or the set palette of these color palettes in Seaborn is bright, and the color palette and the custom palette, you can name it any way you want. So okay, what I'll just write 9 here, and now let's execute. It's given an error. So that's what the first has to surely be something like this one. Let's run it. The first argument, there are two arguments that you have to define between for a custom palette in the color palette. The first one has to be the color palette form, like rocket, rainbow, pale, bright, dark, in that way. Okay, you just can't try to make the number first. Of course, there are few programs, you can define the number first and next the color type, but in this type of particular one, you can't do in that way. Okay, so we'll write comma. This time I'm going to show you a big number. If you really have a good eyesight, just count the number of colors. I'm telling you, even though I can't count it now, I'm telling there will be surely 200 because it's a machine. Okay, so what's the maximum number of this one? By 900? Yes, it got executed. I don't know how your side is, but just look at the sprack. This one, yeah. What about 1,000? Sorry, 1,000. Let's find it. No, it gives you an error. Why? The reason is the Python gives the reason itself. Image size of 72,000 while 72 pixels is too large. It must be less than 2 power 16 in each direction. Figure size with one axis. So that's the reason. So I try to figure it out what the number is just by experimenting. Don't tell anyone. So how about 910? Run. It got executed. What about 911? Let's run it. Oops. Have you got the answer? It's 910. What about I keep 0? Let's run it. Oops, you can't even define a 0 because it is a parameter which needs at least a minimum of one number. So that's one. What about using fractions? 1.3. Sorry about that. We're trying to irritate you just because we want to learn about you. 10. Nice. Nice and beautiful. Without errors. That's how you go on with a custom palette. And the largest number you can use 9, 10, and don't worry why the number is 9, 10. If you really want to know why the maximum number is 9, 10, you have to have a little knowledge about the conversion of numbers into diaphers. Of course, the general uh, numerical decimal system, which has a base 10 into a diapher pixel system. Then you're going to know why we are using 9, 10. All right, we'll go to the next program. This time we are going to use just a minute. I'll try to type the entire program. No, not the entire program. I'm going to declare a few things, and then let's jump into the program straight away. Got it? All right. Import Seaborn SNS. I think many people guessed right now. Import NumPy. Remember our old friend during the Matplotlib? Yes, he's our old friend. Don't worry, we are going to implement this friend to import. Here, a pyplot. See, I'm telling you again, you no need to use SNS, you no need to use NP, you no need to use PLT like me, you can use your own ones. But remember one thing, these are standard things, that's the reason I'm doing here. Now we're going to define the function, and I'll just explain it to you. Uh, just hold on your breath. I'm going to explain it to you. Don't worry. I'm going to explain everything to you. The reason I'm going with the function first is because uh, both talking and explaining it's little sometimes I type of even that. Okay, plt dot plot of. Remember this? X comma. Okay, what should we do? Should we go with sine plot or with the cos plot or tan plot? Wait, I'm going to just play a hang free game. If it's odd, I'm going with sine, and if it's even, I'm going with cos. It's odd, sine plot. Okay, sign off. Since I'm using a sine plot, I'm taking the y-axis as for the change in the wave direction, and I'm going to name the x-axis just from the points. Okay, x plus y into, let's give it as a 0.5 because remember it should be less than 1 because sine value doesn't exceed you know doesn't sorry the doesn't exceed 1. Sine 90 is 1, that is the maximum value. For sine, even for cosine it's the same. Okay, so don't worry about Oopsie. See, we got an error here. What is the error here? And now let's try. Just hold on. Hold on. The limits are crossed over maybe. So let's get to 100 this way. Okay. So let me explain you about this program. It's import Seaborn as SNS, NumPy as SNS, and we got the SPLA. Okay. Uh, the next one. So define and for I used semicolons here. What are these semicolons? Semicolon is used after functions or for a defining of a function. And what is for? It is for is a loop. And what is a loop? A loop is something which gets executed, repeated over and over and over. Okay. I'll continue it just a minute. Sorry. It's not comma here. It's going to be a dot. All right. Now let's run it. Where is the graph? Yeah, a few times it happens that it's getting a little closer about it. Don't worry about that. Now let's run it again. Okay. All right. Okay, so what is for? I mentioned here that it's a loop, and you know there are three types of loops in Python. It's for, while, do while. Of course, there are few user-defined loops too, but it has to be user-defined by the user. But the predefined loops are going to be for, while, and do while. These three are loops, which means it is used for iteration. For example, you want to print numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You need not do in this way. Print off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You need not do in that way. You just can in this way. For I equals 1, the first statement is to check the condition. And you can use a semicolon or something like that. And you can, next one is you can give, first one is going to be initialization. Sorry. First is going to be an initialization, I equals to 1. So you're going to start with 1. And the next one is condition. So it's going to iterate till at which point it's going to execute. If you want to execute up till 10, then you should write I less than or equal to 10, comma I plus plus. Then you get a set of things. I don't know why it's not executing here. I'm just trying to check it out again and again. Right, what's the problem here? And for every for loop, you have to use this semicolon, and for if, else, and for sign plot, for defining a function, you need to use a semicolon. All right. Where's the answer, man? It's not getting here. Why? Okay. So wait. Yes. There we got the answer. You know why? Just a minute, I'm going to show something for you now. Right. It's nice, right? See, before I didn't get an output, then why now I got an output? The answer is simple. For and this plot plt.plot of this is inside the loop, and sns.set is outside the loop. What if I do not this way? So, you see, we are going to get this one. In that way, which means there are few things that are defined in the loop. They get executed, and the next things has to be written outside the loop. Since we are not using functions like break, continue, etc. in Python, we have to remember this one. Okay, so you have to remember this one in order to get this loop. Got it? So one last example. What is I remove this set and write this one. Plot off. Since we mentioned here sign, it's going to get sign. What if I use box off? It's getting an error. Sorry, we have to blocks plot off. Let's run it. It's getting an error. So the thing I'm going to do is I'm just the range we took. It's going beyond the range. Since I mentioned here in range of 1, 1 is the minimum value and 7 is the maximum value. So the I value has to be only between 1 or 7. If anything it's outside, we're not going to get it. Okay, then let's define next one here. We'll get to the box plot later, but now let's go to another example. And let's hit style off. And now let's run it. See, we get a wide grid. What if I remove this one, run it? So you mentioned before, we're going to see what are the things here. Wide grid, dark grid, ticks. So these are the only 5 things that you can use. Okay, let's use something like dark grid now. Here. Dark grid, and now let's run it. Yeah. So that's the difference between the grids you get there. And for the box part, I'm going to use these 3 here. You can just to, it's easy to get here. Copy cells, paste cells below. Oopsie. Select it all. Okay, so let's remove this sign plot for the person. And now for the final program, let's use another function. SMS dot set. This time we're going to set the style first. Now let's go with the wide grid. Okay, and next let's take a variable known as data. That's a common one. Don't worry, NP dot. Let's go with the random, since I mentioned you that Seaborn gives the relationship between a random of the variables and the random functions. So normal or NP dot random normal of. Now let's take a size. Size. So what is size? Size is as simple. Size is something the length into breadth of the particular box. Okay, so size equals to, let's take length as 20, comma 15. It's better, right? But remember one thing: the length should always be greater than breadth. Even though you revert it, it's not going to get executed. But remember, the size always, the length has to be greater than breadth. So now I'm going to give you the box plot of, I have to mention what I'm going to do in this particular one. So data equals data. So the x-axis and y-axis are also its fixed app. So that is what I get with the box plot. So what if count these numbers, you get 15. Okay, these are they mentioned here. The breadth and the length are not as you thought in the general max. Okay, there's a number of blocks. The breadth. I mean, we call it as a number of blocks here, and the 20 you can hear. And I'll remove this white grid. White grid, and I will go with white. Now let's run it. See, the grid is totally white. So grid is something, a horizontal type of boxes that's behind the box plot. Okay, in this way you can do it. You can experiment on many things. What if I do use a dark, and let's run it. See, I got a dark background there. So what if I use a dark grid? So I'm going to get those rectangular lines back. Want to see? See, the lines are back. So what you can even change the size. 15. I want only one, so I got only one box. Simple as a, and the length of this one the length is going to be 20. The length is same as mentioned before, but the breadth is the number of boxes. What if I use 120? This one. Oops. This is what we get. So my assignment to you is just find what is the highest number of boxes you can include here. With this, we're going to, wait. So you can use the box plot, or there are many functions that you can use here. which we're going to not do it here. What if I remove this? Since we do, funny, it's a void. You can't execute in that way. Okay, you shouldn't execute in that way because it doesn't give a proper relationship between the number of boxes and the target. So the data has to be properly executed. So 10, 5. With that, with this one, what if I do the data? Okay, there is another feature which I'm going to mention is less empty dot range of 6 by 1. Oops, sorry. I forgot to mention a bracket here. Okay, so operands could not progress together with the shapes 10, 5. Okay, yes, wait. 20, comma, 6. Just want it. Yes, so 20 comma 6, so this number has to be arranged 6, so this has to be arranged in 2 on the same height, 2 on the same height, 2 on the other same height. So this number surely has to be arranged in the first parameter 6. What if I remove 5? Then I'm not going to get an answer because this 6, the red which we called before, has to be the 6 as well. Run it. That's it. What does this do? What do I have to remove? I'll 10. Can I get the answer? Yes, I will, because it's the thing that divides the upper box, the square, from the below one. Okay, so I'm happy with 2, so I'm going to paste 2, 2. All right, so with this, we're going to end our session, and this is the way you can use. This is a multiple application. You're using both C1, NumPy, and Matplotlib together. So I think it's very, 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 an important example to execute all your plans. And I'm telling you what, this is one of the best example I have seen throughout. So with this, we're going to end this particular session, and we are almost coming to the end. There might be just 4 to 5 examples which I have to show you. Maybe I'll try to cover it in the next video or else, but make sure you try to learn all the functions, all the syntaxes properly, because it's going to help you a lot. Remember, many times I used to type this arrange as A-R-R-A-N-G, which we used commonly in English, but in Python it's not declared in that way. It's A-R-A-N-G-E. Okay, so we try to experiment on these type of functions and try to use different types of grids, formats, colors, etc. And then it can be a great fun. Till then, thank you, and maybe 4 to 5 examples, and we can end it for all.